It has been a long 11 years since we last had a college football game. With the game being about a week away for those of us who pre ordered the deluxe edition, I wanted to go through some of the teams that we missed out on being able to play as over the years. Now, before I even get into the actual list, I'm going to go ahead and preface this video. This obviously, there's no criteria. This is just my list. These are players that I enjoy watching. So it's inevitable that somebody watching right now, I'm going to leave off your favorite player or your favorite team or something of that nature. But that's what we had a comment section for. So go ahead and drop your favorite player or your favorite team that we missed out on over this 11-year hiatus since we last had a college football game. Now, once again, before I get into my top five, I got to give an honorable mentions list. First, we have that 2021 Ohio State team with C.J. Stroud, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, and JSN. Not even to mention they had a young Marvin Harrison Jr. on the bench, Emeka Ibuka. That team was loaded. Next, I got that 2017 Penn State team, which had Saquon, Trace McSorley, as well as Mike Gesicki. And then leading the defense is one of my all-time favorite college players, and Marcus Allen. Just look at this crazy picture he had versus Pitt. He had everyone going crazy. And then the last honorable mention I'm going to stay here is the 2022 Texas team that had Bijan, Xavier Worthy, as well as the young Quinn Ewers. Kicking off the list, we have 2018 Alabama. We can't talk 2010s college football in any facet without mentioning Bama. I'm not the biggest Bama fan, but you cannot deny the greatness here. With Bama, you can pretty much pick any team after 2014, and they will have a legitimate argument to be on this list. I know he ended up transferring, but just look at this pick with Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, and Kenyon Drake. This is the 2013 team who actually was in the game, but you get the point. I chose this 2018 team because they had a QB room full of 3 NFL starters, Jalen Hurts, Mac Jones, as well as Tua Tagovailoa. I also kind of wanted to put 2014 Bama here, but I'm much more of a passer. So all the playmakers on this 2018 wanted over that lethal Derrick Henry and Amari Cooper combo for me personally. On offense, we had Tua. He had 4,000 yards from scrimmage as well as 48 touchdowns. Judy had 1,300 yards from scrimmage and 14 TDs. Ruggs had 741 and 11 TDs. On top of these receivers, there was also Irv Smith and a young Devontae Smith. On top of their elite pass catchers, they also had that crazy backfield trio of Damian Harris, Josh Jacobs, Najee Harris, where those 3 combined for about 2,800 yards and 27 TDs. And then when you think about their defense, they had Pat Surtain, Trayvon Diggs, and Xavier McKinney, who are all in the NFL. And up front, they also had now New York Jet Quinnen Williams to shore up the run game. Top to bottom, this team is stacked. But like I said earlier, I wouldn't be mad if you chose any of the Bama teams from 2014 up until 2023. Saban is really the GOAT, and I don't think anybody can really argue that. Coming in at my number 4 spot, I have that 2019 LSU team. I feel like preseason, nobody really expected this team to be that good, but looking back, man, was this such a fun team to watch. We had Burrow, who had 6,000 yards from scrimmage, as well as 65 TDs to go with it. Jamar Chase went for 1,780 and 20 TDs. Justin Jefferson went for 1,540 and 18 TDs. And this is really the last time we saw Justin Jefferson not be the best player on his team. And then in the backfield, they had Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who had 1,870, as well as 17 touchdowns. And then let's not forget, they really had the president and the first lady doing that get the gat dance. And on top of that, the whole nation was grittying. And this is one of the few teams that was actually complete from top to bottom. Their defense was absolutely insane as well. They had Grant Delpit, Patrick Queen, as well as a young Derek Stingley, who many consider to be one of the best freshman college football players ever. But really, from a video game perspective, this team would have been wild. They're in the greatest college football team ever conversation for a reason. But I have them at number 4. You guys don't understand why. But from a video game perspective, you got Jamar Chase on one side, Justin Jefferson on the other side. Joe Burrow could throw the ball anywhere. Jamar Chase is basically a running back once he gets the ball in his hands. And then you got Clyde in the backfield, so when you get stopped at the 1, you can just ram it in there. Man, this team is wild. So I'm going to just leave it there. And then coming in at my number 3 spot, I have that 2018 Oklahoma team. On offense, they had Kyler Murray, who went for 5,400 yards from scrimmage along with 54 TDs. CeeDee Lamb, who went for 1,100 yards and 11 TDs. And then Hollywood Brown, who went for 1,300 yards and 10 TDs. And then in the backfield, there was Trey Sermon as well as Kennedy Brooks, who both had 1,000 yards from scrimmage. Defensively, this team wasn't nearly as good as the last 2 that I listed, but this is Big Ten Oklahoma before Venables got there, and they pretty much always had a historically bad defense. The only player who was kind of worth mentioning is Kenneth Murray, who did have a solid NFL career. Also, if you're more of a Baker Mayfield fan, you could also throw in that 2017 Oklahoma team. Both of them did win the Heisman, which was pretty cool to see. But there's just something about that dynamic that you get from a scrambling quarterback. And Baker could definitely move, especially while he was in college. But Kyler Murray was just on a different level. He was truly electric to watch. But on another note, I'm super excited to see what Lincoln Riley's USC playbook ends up looking like in college football 25. The last time we had a college football game, Lincoln Riley was still a OC/quarterback coach at East Carolina back in 2013. So before he got the opportunity to help shape the careers of some of the best quarterbacks from recent years like Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, as well as Caleb Williams, he was still a pretty unknown guy back in 2013 when NCAA 14 first dropped. At the number 2 spot, I have 2015 Stanford for one reason and one reason only. Christian McCaffrey. During that season, he rushed for 2,019 yards and 8 touchdowns, caught 45 passes for 645 yards and 5 touchdowns. On top of that, he returned a punt return, a kick return, and he threw for an additional 2 touchdowns. He was literally doing everything on the field. I was in high school at the time, and all of my white friends were suddenly Stanford football fans. CMC really had every white football fan in America absolutely locked to watch Stanford football every single Saturday. And I don't know about you guys, but I personally lived on the East Coast, so these games were basically kicking off at midnight, and a lot of times wouldn't end until past midnight. CMC basically was running circles around everyone with a team full of guys who were going to go on to get MBAs, MDs, PhDs, etc., go and be lawyers. And he was pretty much the only guy who was going to go on to be in the league. But yeah, this team was actually crazy. And I can only imagine in a college football game what CMC would have been able to do. He would have had jukebox before jukebox was even a thing. And then finally coming in at the number 1 spot, I have either that 2016 or that 2017 Louisville team. And we know why. It's another team where it's pretty much not that much to talk about outside of the top 2 guys. On the offensive side of the ball, we got Lamar Jackson. On the defensive side of the ball, we got Jair Alexander. Jair is the lockdown corner, but NCAA is really about having speed on offense and forcing interceptions on defense. So it just wouldn't feel right if Sniper King Lamar Jackson wasn't number 1 on this list. Lamar Jackson first won that Heisman back in 2016, where he totaled 4,928 yards from scrimmage, as well as 51 total touchdowns. And what's really crazy is, from a yardage standpoint, his 2017 was better, and he didn't even win the Heisman. He was able to top his Heisman campaign during that 2017 season when he went for 5,260 yards from scrimmage, which is just wild to think about. 5,000 yards from one player. In my head, I imagine Lamar in NCAA 15 or 16 being equivalent to Bo Jackson in Tecmo Bowl, or maybe Michael Vick in Madden 05 or Madden 04. He was spinning, jumping, juking, whatever you wanted a quarterback to do, Lamar Jackson could do it. And what sucks the most about this is that we almost had it. If the game was just 1 year older, we would have had it. Lamar Jackson was a freshman when NCAA 14 released, so he obviously wasn't starting yet. He only had a couple of good games underneath his belt. So if we had one more year, if we just had NCAA 15, we would have been able to dominate the competition with Lamar Jackson. Ultimately, that's going to do it for my list. I think Lamar Jackson was the perfect player to close it out on, and I think he should be on everybody's list personally. But if you feel like I missed one of your favorite players, go ahead and drop a comment on who exactly you think I missed. Also, like the video, subscribe, and maybe go watch one of my other college football 25 videos to hold you over until we get the game in about a week. So big thank you if you watched this far into the video. I will catch you all in the next one.